I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, July the 18th, brought to you in part by VitaFerm. Combat heat stress with VitaFerm Heat. Keep those cattle out of the ponds, out of the shade. Don't let heat stress the performance on your cattle due to high temperatures. For more information, go to VitaFerm.com. Also, Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, going to have another moderate run, about 1,400 head. They've had so much moisture around that area since the 4th of July. Little need to sell any cattle in that part of the country because it's very rare that they have the moisture levels and the kind of grass that they've got right now. But still, they're going to have about 800 head of yearlings, be 9 full straight loads of 750 to 950 pound steers. Some of them be really nice, some of them just commodity cattle, but they'll bring what they're worth there. But if you're interested in them, get in there on those. Didn't have any loads of yearling heifers to speak of, about 300 calves. Less than half of those will be weaned. I do have 40 pairs in the cow section there, and some of those will be bred back if you're interested. But just check out Beaver County Stockyards on dvauction.com and see what they're all about. Texas sells 500 head, and you think, whoa, what's the big deal about that? The big deal is how ridiculous this is. That's all there was of negotiated fed cattle sales in the entire Texas feedlot region, including eastern New Mexico and western Oklahoma. That is absolutely ridiculous. Texas A&M Ag Research told us that by 2025, Texas would be net zero negotiated sales. It didn't take near that long. It took mid-July 2023. That is net zero negotiated sales. And a good portion of those were mixed match hodgepodge crap of straight steers and heifers. There was only 335 head of those. Any podunk sale barn will have that many cattle, feeder cattle or cows in their auction. You drive through Hereford, Texas, you drive through Dalhart, Texas, you drive all around the Texas Panhandle, you see all these feedlots, and they're only negotiating the sales on about 300 head for an entire week. I mean, they absolutely should be ashamed of themselves. In the mid-90s, when I started with USDA Market News, and we used to collect the feedlot sales on a big yellow notebook and a fat pencil, we would get 100,000 negotiated sales every single week, and we would add them up like that. When they brought on mandatory price reporting and took it all to St. Joe, Missouri, which they don't even have an office in St. Joe, Missouri. Now everybody works from their bed, and they have an office in Kansas City that they drop by occasionally, but nobody really knows what's going on. And the packers put all the information in lackadaisical through a mandatory price reporting database there. But you know, just not that long ago, we'd get 100,000 every week. Mandatory price reporting has enabled the drying up of negotiated sales. And you know, of course, you're going to have all your big corporates that are basically the same parent company as the packers. Of course, they're going to be on a formula deal, but all the other corporates have joined in there too and found a sweetheart. And even some of your smaller outfits have been able to get a sweetheart deal. And what they've done is they've shit their own nest. And so you've made your bed, now you got to sleep in it. So what was your weighted average last week? Well, most of your contracts say you've got to have a minimum amount of cattle on there to be the established price, and it'd be like 5,000 head. How the hell are you going to get 5,000 head when you can't sell more than 500? And so they sold just a few cattle last week. Fed Cattle Exchange sold more cattle than they did in the country in Texas. But the weighted average on the little drab that they sold is going to be 178, because that's all they got was 178. If they'd have tried a little harder to negotiate, made the packers come to them a little more, then they might have got 180, which would have been close to par with what your August live cattle futures are here late in July, but just didn't quite do that. But negotiated grid sales at 8,700 head of negotiated grid sales, which negotiated, I think, is funny on those negotiated grid. The only time they negotiate on any grid is on the Fed Cattle Exchange when they bid the grid. They actually bid the base price. But on your direct sales and negotiated grid, it's just take it or leave it. You don't get to haggle on your negotiated grid prices there. And they've been wanting to get everything switched to that. They want everything to be carcass basis there, where they know what's they don't want to have to guess what the cattle are going to perform. They want to make sure that they have all the good out of them. And remember, guys, once you put those cattle in that packing plant, they don't have windows on the side where you can peek in and see how bad you're getting screwed. You just take their word for it. And that's what they like. That's another thing that they like. We've had plants that's had hot scales off for months on end, and it went unnoticed for a long time until they come in with a government inspection. But it's sad to me that, especially in Texas, of course, it's mostly all corporate feeding there. We don't have any independent feeders. We have a few custom cattle feeders, but the feedlot managers, for the most part, don't want to do the selling of the cattle. But it's just sad to see that go by. Kansas did some better on head counts, but they didn't do any better on the weighted average. The Kansas weighted average statewide for last week is 177.09 because somebody puked a bunch of cattle at 175, more than they did the 178 and a little bit of 180 in the northern part. The guys that are on a formula deal are stuck with a base price of 177.09 when your weighted average in your 5 area was over 184 and a quarter. And you wonder why nobody wants to feed cattle in the southern plains anymore. You don't have any corn. You got to pay a bunch more for the corn for the freight to get it down there. The heat's terrible in the summertime. At times the storms can be just as bad in the wintertime. Why not feed them somewhere where you have some say in what the cattle bring when they're fat? That's why I say we still need this Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act. I was at that Texas Independent Cattlemen's Association meeting there. Justin Tupper, the president of U.S. Cattlemen's Association, gave us an update there with Liam Biondo, who's the executive vice president, said this bill is not dead yet. It's got more co-sponsors than we've ever had. I believe it's got 25 senator co-sponsors, bipartisan. And what does Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act do? It sets a minimum level per region of how low this negotiated trade can dip down. And you say, well, you can't tell us how we're going to sell our cattle. No, the onus is on the packer. The packer has to buy a minimum percentage of negotiated trade there, and it's very minimal where it's going to start. And then the way they've got it set up is where it could grow as we go forward. It could increase, but not back up anymore. It would just set a minimum. But it never ceases to amaze me. All these feedlots in the Southern Plains, they're just so dedicated to efficiency, feeding these cattle, making these cattle comfortable, seeing how much weight gain they can get out of them. Which way are they facing when they're eating out of the bunk? We don't want to scare them when we do this. All these tests and things that they do on how they can produce these cattle more efficiently, get them to gain, try to get them to grain, and then completely piss it away when it comes to marketing. I was talking with some guys that are in the know, and I said, so what are they going to do since they only had 335 head, or total 500, but a couple hundred of those didn't even go into the weighted average? What are they going to do? Are they going to use that 178 whenever the minimum is usually 5,000? They said, well, they may use that 178 or go back to the previous week. I think the rules on most of those contracts, they go back to the previous week, which was 178 also. So you get to go back to the previous week, which was steady at 178, whenever your 5 area enjoyed a weighted average that was $2.21 higher. Somebody's got to have the balls to sell these cattle in a negotiated manner. And they've got to use the leverage that they have at times to increase the market position. Everybody's just giving up. Let's talk about the board to start the week out on Monday. August live cattle futures down a nickel, but still at 180.12, and those guys are getting paid 177 and 178 base price on their formulas. October down 37 cents at 182 and a quarter. Back months were mostly unchanged to down 12. And then the furthest out traded months were up some, as much as 75 cents. The August feeder cattle contract was up big, up 260, 249 and a quarter as corn was down some. September is up 220 at 251.42. Back months were all big, up on feeder cattle, up $1.12 to up 187. December new crop corn down 7 3/4 cents at 506. New crop November beans up 7 1/4 at 13.78. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for September down 13 3/4 cents at 8.20 a bushel. Weighted average on last week's minimal negotiated fed cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region was 52,100 compared to the big holiday week right in the middle of the week, 4th of July week, of 62,100, 10,000 more. Then we come off of that big holiday week that had everything about shut down and trade 10,000 less negotiated sales. Year ago last week it was 74,700. Weighted average on live sales in the 5 area, which was mostly all northern plains, 175 to 188.50. We didn't know we had 188.50 till it was printed there. Huge price spread. The trend there was kind of uneven. It was mostly 184 to 185, but your weighted average in your 5 area, which was completely weighted to the north, was 184.27, up $2.21. Your dress trade 285 to 295, mostly 290 to 292, but there was nearly 2,200 head that sold at 295 dressed late in the week. That's when we get our best prices, late in the week when you hold out. That spread was steady to $2 higher. Weighted average on dress steers 291.34, up $1.35. Nationwide negotiated sales were only 64,500. What are fat cattle going to be worth when nobody sells them in a negotiated manner? I ask you this. What are they going to be worth? Feeder cattle, yeah, it's no big deal. We got the active feeder cattle auctions all over the country, and that direct trade kind of leans off of those prices that you see either on a video auction or in a brick and mortar sale. But that gives you price discovery. You hear about price discovery, price transparency. We're soon going to have zero of that in our fat cattle deal. NCBA has been lobbying against Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act ever since its inception because they are puppets of the big corporate feeders, guys. But nationwide, only 64,500 head negotiated sales. That compared to 75,400 the previous week, 85,200 the same week a year ago. Of that 64,500, 32% of them was for the 15 to 30 day delivery. Negotiated grid sales, which continue to go up, but there's no negotiation in them, 53,200. Forward contracts, 42,300. And formula sales, 271,400. Of your minimal negotiated sales in the 4 out of the 5 area that we get the information on, Iowa sold 25,200. That's typical for them. They normally sell about that many. Nebraska was really light at just 17,000. Kansas 9,400, and most of those were well off the market. In Texas, just the 518 head. Wow. But box beef cutout values were mixed, and choice was finally on the plus side for a change after falling in a free fall here for many sessions. But choice cuts up 84 cents Monday afternoon at 306.78. Select's down 87 cents at 275.74. Slaughter was brisk, 126,000 for the first day of the week, and that's a really good start. What else is going on? Night Latch Group. That is Andy Cunningham. He's in Laverne, Oklahoma. He can help you wherever you're at, wherever a lot of cattle are. He's licensed to do business and can help you out. He wants you to hang on to your investment through gross margin livestock policies there, LRPs, crop insurance. He can help you out with all that stuff. You'll feel comfortable with him. Get a hold of him at nightlatch.net. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction. Late in the day on Monday, sitting at 240.48 based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through the middle 12 states. That was up 84 cents on minimal sales, guys, but pretty darn good there to start the week. Don't forget Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains. They've got a big in-house video. They have in-house videos pretty much every week, but this week they've got about 1,000 head on there. And Landon Shaw's got 9 loads of Flint Hill yearling steers on there, guys, and they're pretty darn nice. Mostly all black, real nice cattle. Go on there to dvauction.com. Look at the videos. They're already available on there. You can look at those early in the morning and check those cattle out. Get online there. Give them a call in West Plains at Ozarks Regional Stockyard. View and bid that sale right online at DV Auction, or watch online and bid on the phone, however you'd like to do it. But included in that 1,000 head, they've also got 124 head of big 9-weight Holstein steers. And you can't go very many places and find those anymore, but if you're interested, get on to Ozarks Regional Stockyard, West Plains, Missouri, for their in-house video sale. Also, Mid-Atlantic cattle sales, which I don't talk about very often, but I should talk about more. They've been with DV Auction for a long, long time. They've got 29 loads of cattle. They're both mostly lighter yearlings. If you guys want to get some lighter weight cattle in the feedlot, you think you can cheapen them up that way, got 29 loads out of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. And get on, look at the videos. I think you'll be surprised at the quality of the cattle. Starts at noon Central. Some of the cattle got programs on them. And that's a reputable outfit you'll be buying off of at Mid-Atlantic Cattle Sales on DV Auction here today at noon Central or 1 o'clock Eastern. Talk about your big sales on Monday. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City had 6,300 head. Feeders were steady to $2 higher. Calves were steady to $3 higher. Joplin Regional Stockyards underestimated bad. They had told me late on Sunday that they were only going to have 5,000 head. They ended up with 6,300 head as well. The steers were kind of uneven with last week's higher market. Heifers were steady to $3 higher. Stickout deal in Joplin was 69 head. Red Angus steers weighed 933 at 236.50. Give you some other individual quotes. Heavy on the Missouri, that's where the receipts are at, because central Missouri is so extremely dry. Callaway Livestock Center in Kingdom City, Missouri sells 75 steers, weigh 675 at 268. Gainesville Livestock Auction in Gainesville, Missouri, that is extreme south central Missouri, way down in the Ozarks there. 57 steers, weigh 767 at 251. Scaring the heck out of 800 pounds. How about Russell Livestock Market in Russell, Iowa? They sell 68 steers, weighed 808 at 256.10. Wow, they blew right by my 800 pounds of $250 cattle guess that I put out there several weeks ago. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Monday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Aberdeen Livestock Sales in Aberdeen, South Dakota. They sell 60 steers, weighed 846 at $257. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.